All right, seeing the hour of 6 o'clock having arrived, I'll call the Tuesday, November 4th council meeting to order. Roll call, Heather.
Patrick Singer,
Here.
Greg Mychak,
Here.
Mike Smith,
Here.
Brian Shannon,
Here.
Steve Sion,
Here.
Orin Smith,
Here.
Neil Hitt.
Here.
All right, if everybody rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, next up we have approval of the agenda. Is there anything any council member would like to remove at this time or rearrange an order of the agenda as printed?
Move approval. Second.
All right, it's been moved and seconded to approve the agenda. And just a note, we will still be able to modify the consent agenda when that comes up, because I think there was some questions on potentially moving some stuff up there, so. All right, who made that motion?
I move.
Thank you.
All right, moved by Mychak, seconded by Smith O. to approve the agenda. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. The agenda is approved. All right, next up we have our single presentation for tonight. So we have Greg Johnson from Ellers and Associates, and I don't know if any staff we're going to introduce, or Greg, you're good to go.
I would just briefly say, for anyone's benefit, you don't necessarily have to speak loud for the microphones. They are good, but it's for each other's benefit in the room tonight, since we don't have microphones at the dais. So use your almost outdoor voice.
All right, good.
Good evening, Greg Johnson from Ellers. My colleague Shane Rutling is online. Hopefully you can hear me, Shane. Give a thumbs up if you can. I'm guessing. Maybe not. So Shane is one of our pro forma review experts. I asked him to kind of join me to kind of help give an overview of our pro forma review process. We've discussed this at some finance committee meetings and council meetings in the past, and you have some samples of our work product that are in your packet. But really what we're here to discuss is kind of how we assist communities in evaluating economic development projects and determining the appropriate level of TIF participation if that's necessary for a particular project. So as you all know, TIF is really the common economic development tool that is utilized in Wisconsin to help promote development and redevelopment within defined areas, the boundary of the district. And it's very common that municipalities get approached to look for some kind of public participation on projects. And that can really fall along across a spectrum of how that assistance can occur. Sometimes it involves providing infrastructure or funding of infrastructure. Communities can choose to finance that infrastructure, or they can ask the developer to fund the infrastructure and reimburse them as increment gets generated. Other times, developers may ask for a community to provide some financial assistance to really help their project become financially feasible, so that they can get it built, to get it off the ground in a manner that works for the community and also works for them being able to proceed and make the project financially feasible. And that's where our developer pro forma review process comes into place. It's really, we're working on behalf of the municipality to look at the developer's financials to determine what level of TIF assistance is appropriate and how that should be structured. And how we do that is by going through several different metrics that developers evaluate to determine if their project is profitable or not. A developer is not going to proceed with a project unless they feel that it can be profitable for them at the end. But it also, as a community, you need to have some comfort level that the level of TIF assistance that you're providing is appropriate, isn't over enriching what the developer needs for the project to get completed. So we'll typically look at various return metrics to evaluate projects. And the return metrics that we look at will be dependent on the type of development that's occurring. How we evaluate an industrial spec building is going to be different than how we evaluate single family or multifamily residential development. But typically what we'll do is we'll take the developer's pro forma, and really that is financial information that they're typically preparing and providing to their lenders, to their investors. It identifies their sources and uses. how they're funding the project, where the costs are, and then we run that through our own model to kind of verify their information, have dialogue with the developer, and then look at various rate of return metrics that can include internal rate of return, cash on cash return, and other metrics to kind of establish if without TIF assistance, where is that developer's rate of return going to be? With TIF assistance, how is that going to be changed? And is it reasonable depending on the type of development that they're proposing and where we are seeing similar type projects throughout the state and in a particular region. So at any given point in time, we are evaluating multiple developments. Just myself personally, I have about 8 of these sitting on my desk at the moment. So I work with our colleagues to kind of evaluate these projects, and really our objective is to help municipal officials identify what level of assistance is appropriate for the project and how is that financial assistance going to be structured. Because when you look at putting a project together, you have to consider a lot of different factors: what they're developing, how much equity a developer is bringing in, where are their pressure points, how can that financial assistance be structured, and how does it protect the city at the end of the day in terms of how that investment is made. So we represent the community, but really work in reviewing the developer's information to kind of help make those policy decisions. So I know Shane had some background information. I don't know if Shane, you can hear me? I'll have him bring it up on the screen and I will talk through it.
There's also a building manager. There's a building manager here to help with that.
So in our packet, we kind of included some of our sample kind of work product. This is for projects in other communities that kind of shows kind of our deliverable in terms of how we evaluate a particular project. So we typically show the sources and uses for the developer, identify how they're funding the project through mortgage, through equity, whether or not there's how the TIF participation, what the initial ask is. And then we look at the various uses, what their acquisition costs are going to be, their construction costs, professional services, financing costs, their developer fee, and what their other costs are going to be. And we identify the sources and uses, and then we go through and do those rate of return metrics and compare it to other projects, other developments that we're seeing to kind of determine if they are reasonable. And really, again, getting down to what is the appropriate level of TIF assistance for a particular project. So you'll see in our sample reports, we include some yield on cost, internal rate of return, we define those metrics, and then we'll compare them to kind of industry standards for that particular type of project. So it really quantifies the but-for test when you evaluate TIF projects. What level of TIF assistance are they asking for? Is it reasonable? Is it appropriate? And how is that financial assistance, if necessary, going to be structured to kind of help mitigate the city's risk? So certainly we try to utilize what's called a pay-as-you-go approach, and the city has done that successfully on many occasions, where the developer is paid out from a portion of their increment that the project generates. Typically there's a dollar amount that's identified that's up to a specific amount. If the project doesn't generate enough increment to repay the full investment, the city has no responsibility to make up that shortfall. So it really shifts that financial burden onto the developer that they need to perform in order to get their incentive. If there is more upfront participation from a community, whether it's financing infrastructure, providing cash, we often recommend ways that can some protections, risk mitigation strategies that can be incorporated into development agreements, that in the event the project doesn't generate enough increment to support the cost, the developer can make shortfall payments. There could be letters of credit built in for securities, a lot of different terms. Special assessments can be utilized to really kind of help protect the community. So really our role is to kind of supplement, the work that your staff does in terms of evaluating projects, kind of providing that financial resource to kind of identify, where those metrics are, and kind of provide an independent kind of third-party review of what the developer is providing, analyze that, provide recommendations back to all of you to kind of help appropriately structure TID assistance. So that's kind of an overview of our process. I know your staff's very familiar with this, as we've had conversations with them about how that can be applicable to developments here in Whitewater. And that's, really kind of how we would approach that here, is kind of working with developers, having some initial dialogue, but we always loop in your staff to be part of those conversations. We don't handle the negotiations unless we're directed to do so. It's really part of the team to really take direction from the community in terms of how you want that negotiation to proceed.
Any questions for Greg at this point?
Not so much for Greg, but maybe for John, so are we looking to standardize on, say, using Ehlers for all or anything over a certain dollar amount? I mean, it seems like the city has one way, and then we have this, if we have multiple different views of the same thing, it's hard to keep track.
All I know is I was asked by the finance committee to ensure that Ehlers reviews all tax increment financing proposals, and so in order for the council to be aware that that's the standard the finance committee asked for, I asked them to come present. Everything beyond that is, you guys can have conversations. You can choose to say, we are never using Ehlers for any of this. This is crazy. I mean, I would prefer, Ehlers is good. This is good materials, and so the shortest way to say it is finance committee asked that I facilitate that happening on all future projects, and I just wanted to make sure everyone was educated as to what that would look like before it happens. So to cut to the quick, we shouldn't be arguing about the tool that's being used while we're actually evaluating a real project on the table. So in order to avoid that, we need to have this conversation about I don't know if this project is real or not in another community or not, but using the framework so you guys could say, I like this, I don't like this, or decide to accept or reject. Make sense? Okay, cool. Thank you.
Yeah, I can jump in as well.
Yeah, yeah.
This was driven out of the finance committee based on some of the feedback we had with the prior tip considerations, is trying to create an as objective of a way to evaluate some of these metrics that were asked by the public in terms of, what's this deal look like? And for some of those, the one in particular in the past, but we didn't have those numbers. Staff was able to engage with Ehlers, and they had some great examples of what they do in other communities. So our hope would be, and we already have a great working relationship with Greg and the team, is that this would be the standard for those kind of projects, which will help augment anything Mason and John and the rest of the team's doing. So when we're debating it, we're debating a policy decision. We're not going around saying, well, what's the rate of return or how much? So it was meant to get us the information, and then we as a body and the CDA and others can make a policy-based decision.
Recognizing the CDA can use whatever information they choose to make a recommendation. Ultimately, as Greg I'm sure will agree, at the end of the day, it's the city vote that expends tax increment financing dollars. So it will be what this body wants is what I will bring forward at your time of decision making.
Yep.
Any other questions for Greg at this point?
I would just point out for the record, it's literally at the end. You generally then provide a 2-paragraph recommendation. If you'll see it, it's on page 13 of the packet. They show what the developer's asking for, and then their line is they do recommend providing the loan. And I'm assuming you have delivered memos that have not recommended, and I would say we do not recommend doing this because it does not meet. Okay.
Correct. Or if a developer comes in with an ask at a particular amount, we may recommend something different because we feel that the ask was, overstated what was necessary for the project to proceed.
Okay.
So a lot of times that's right in the memo. So.
And obviously, we have not had a proposal come through that has been vetted or this analysis has been done. When we do have one, if one does come through, maybe having Greg at least remote, if there are questions about the numbers
I
for
find
them.
that both being in person. That's that important.
The first time we're doing this and using this tool would be helpful, because then we'll actually have a real legitimate thing we need to make a decision on, and having you here. The only question I had when you said about the recommendation, in terms of the negotiation that may be going on between the city, John and Mason, do you do this at the end of the process? So they seemingly come up with something that they're agreeing to, and then they say, hey, Ehlers, here's what we want to take to for approval, or are you engaged in some of that conversation in terms of like, if they negotiate something and then you're like, wait, this is way out of whack,
No, I
and you
mean,
don't recommend it, like where do you fall in the equation of?
Yeah, typically how we approach it, I mean, it varies by community, but the approach that we use most often is that everything is just kind of done in parallel. I mean, as you're starting to get kind of that tip ask and that request where we like to be involved on the front end, but I mean, it's done in conjunction with city staff the entire way. We're not going out and starting without them knowing what we're doing. We'll do some initial legwork, have some back and forth with the developer, because we always have questions. They send us information. We want to clarify, make sure we understand things, try to get to an initial starting point. Then we typically circle back with city staff and say, this is our initial review of the project. This is kind of what we're seeing based on that initial review. These are questions we have. This is what we think they're, what may be reasonable. This is what we think may be unreasonable. These are what we suggest in terms of next conversations with the developer. But I mean, at the end of the day, we're taking our direction from the city. We're not shy about sharing our opinions, but we're not the decision makers. We know that. So
I just want to, if you're in parallel, that's better, because then at the end, you're not like, okay,
Yeah,
let's analyze it, and you're like, oh, this is.
Without going into specifics, because it's not part of the agenda, but using this framework, I can say the one thing we have engaged in using this framework, the developer has not shared any of their proprietary information with the city, so it's being solely vetted. That's part of what's leading to the time here is this, we're waiting for ours. So we were not involved in the ask, we were not involved in presenting the numbers. That's running solely through. And that's sometimes how it happens when the developer wants to keep their numbers. Confidential, I guess is the right way to say it. So on this one, Ellers, the one we're working through together right now, Ellers is the one that has all the information the city doesn't have.
And so we kind of share that once we kind of compile it, but John's right. I mean, a lot of it is some confidentiality, so they'll kind of send it to us to kind of, do that initial review, but we're always providing, enough information back to the policymakers so they understand what's being asked.
Yeah, it's just to explain, in this situation, the city didn't hand in package with numbers to others. In this particular situation, the numbers are being provided directly to others from the developer.
All right.
Sure, I'll throw out there, something that I'm curious about is, take this instance in Pittsburgh that you provided us. I'd be curious to know, almost like an after-action review, 3 to 5 years later, and see how the plan worked out versus the results. What problems occurred, what good, what bad. What do we, what risks do we need to think about, things like that.
Yeah, one way that can be addressed on the front end of a project, and we see this fairly common on development agreements, but it kind of depends on, the project is that's called a look back provision, where that can be written right into the development agreement, that you're going to say, this is the benchmark we're going to use to evaluate this project once all the construction costs are known, and you go back and you look and see where those rate of returns are at, and it specifies what happens if the returns were higher than expected. How does that work? That's typically a negotiating strategy that a community can choose to undertake. So, candidly, a lot of developers don't like look-back provisions, but that's sometimes a key factor depending on the project and the level of assistance. So that's how that can be addressed if it's appropriate for a project.
Any other questions from council at this point? It's always nice to see you, Greg.
Nice to
Thanks
see
for
all of
the
you.
work,
Thank you.
You did, and we'll hopefully see you in the near future.
Sounds good. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, next up, we have the consent agenda. Is there anything anybody would like to add or remove from the consent agenda at this time?
I'd like to move 15, 17, 22, 23 in.
15. So 15 is just our city clerk, there's a memo in the packet, just kind of announcing spring election races and what dates and filing deadlines. You said 17?
Yep.
17 is comparable municipal utility rate review, and then what was it?
22, 23.
22 was discussion and possible action regarding 2025 audit engagement letter with Johnson Block. And 23 was a 1-year extension to Brown Cab Services contract for rideshare programming.
Sure, if you're looking for a second, I'll just second.
Yeah. Any other modifications? I would offer, would anybody have any objection to moving item number 20, which is the salary resolution amendment number 3, 2025? That was reviewed at finance and recommended unanimously, so.
I'll second that.
All right. Anybody else? Any other items? So Heather, did you get that? Otherwise I can read them off again.
Nope, I have the numbers, just need to know who seconded.
All right, so those were the changes. Anything, any other changes? Otherwise, is there a motion to approve with those changes?
So moved.
Second.
All right, moved by Smith O, seconded by Hicks to approve the consent agenda with those modifications. Heather, if you please read the consent agenda.
We have approval of common council meeting minutes from October 21, 2025, alcohol licensing committee meeting minutes from September 2nd, 2025, landmarks meeting minutes from September 3rd, 2025, plan and architectural review commission meeting minutes from September 8th, 2025, CDA minutes from September 18th, 2025, library board of trustees meeting minutes from September 15, 2025, and special meeting minutes from October 6, 2025, Urban Forestry Commission meeting minutes from March 24th, 2025, July 28th, 2025, and August 25th, 2025, Park Board meeting minutes from September 17th, 2025, Lisa Dossie Smith's resignation from the Plan and Architectural Review Commission, the Library Exception Resolution, the PD Speed Board data, Indian Mound Parkway. 15 would be the 2026 spring election races and important dates. Comparable municipal utility rate review. What's next? 20, the Amendment 3 of the 2025 salary resolution. Discussion and possible action regarding the 2025 audit engagement letter from Johnson & Block. And 23, approval of a one-year extension to ground cab services contract for the rideshare program.
All right. So that was quite a long list, but is there anybody in the public wishing to speak on any of the items that are listed on the consent agenda for approval? And all of these memos and reports are in the packet that's online if anybody has any question or want to review those. So any further council discussion? All right, Heather, if you please call the roll.
Mike Smith,
Aye.
Orin Smith,
Aye.
Myshak,
Aye.
Singer,
Aye.
Sayun,
Aye.
Shannon,
Aye.
Hicks.
Aye.
All right, that motion passes. Next up, we move to city manager report. So first is American Indian and Alaska Native Heritage Proclamation, and then your bi-weekly city manager report. So John, I'll turn it over to you.
Thank you very much. So the first is the proclamation. Whereas American Indian and Alaska Native Heritage Month is an opportunity to learn about the rich cultures, histories, and contemporary issues facing Native American and Alaska Native peoples, and whereas the observation began in 1986 to have a day to honor Native Americans as recognition of American Indian Week by President Ronald Reagan, but was expanded by President George W. Bush in 1990 as proclaiming November to be Native American Indian and Alaska Native Heritage Month, calling upon federal, state, and local governments, groups, and organizations, and the people of the United States to observe such month with appropriate programs, ceremonies, and activities. And whereas the 2020 U.S. Census estimates that slightly over 0.3% of Whitewater's population are American Indian and Alaska Native residents, and whereas 1% of the students of Whitewater Unified School District identify as American Indian and Alaska Native, and whereas 0.3% of the University of Whitewater, Wisconsin-Whitewater in Whitewater, Wisconsin identify as American Indian and Alaska Native, and whereas the city of Whitewater joins the rest of the nation in recognizing the unique and vital role in our economy, workforce, education, and faith communities these American Indian and Alaska Native residents contribute. Now, therefore, I, John Wydell, City Manager of the City of Whitewater, Wisconsin, proclaims the month of November 2025 as National Native American Heritage Month in the City of Whitewater, and encourages residents to observe this month, presented this 4th day of November 2025. So thank you to the school district for helping bring this forward and joining us here tonight for that. Okay, diving into the regular city manager report. As always, the report in its entirety is available in the packet online. In the Department of Public Works, construction projects, well 7 modification, The contractor has been on site removing asbestos and containing material on the reservoir tank before its demolition and removal. On Moraine View Parkway, the public water main in Phase 1 has been installed and tested. Streets Department is all about bagged leaf collection. No collection takes place this week though. Bagged leaves will again be collected November 10th, on the weeks of November 10th and 17th. Other work includes attending a saltwise training, street sweeping, concrete pours, and removal of tree water bags and remulching of new trees. The water department worked on fixing driveways from curb box repairs and performed hydrant flushing. And the wastewater department staff worked with IT and GIS on new processing for uploading their televised videos. Okay. In the police department, patrol interviews were recently conducted. Applicants advancing through the process will complete a physical readiness before entering background investigation. Additionally, the police department provided an update to the residents at Fairhaven. And as a part of our ongoing recruitment efforts, Officers Johnson and Kowalski represented the department at a career fair hosted by Madison College, helping strengthen our outreach and visibility, which is pictured above. On October 30th, Captain Taft assisted the Delavan Police Department by serving as an interview panelist. They're looking for a sergeant. And on Thursday, November 13th, please join our police for Coffee with the Cop at Jessica's from 8 to 10. And there's a photo of that. Fire and EMS. They responded to Johnson Creek for a MABIS call involving a corn dryer fire. Also responded to LaGrange for a smoke investigation in a commercial building. We were requested for an engine to respond to a structure fire in Milton. We later requested mutual aid from Lakeside with a motor vehicle accident. And the reason why I'm saying all of this and not giving all of our fun stats is because in order to catch everything up and align the police department and the fire departments, they both give their monthly stats with the same graphic at the same time. I had to stall one of them. That was my stalling of the fire department. Their graphics are really cool. We're now just going to run dashboards for both the departments, and I look forward to showing those both at the next meeting. In economic development, in neighborhood services, Lana has been reclassified to zoning specialist, which is reflecting her work processing zoning codes. Before this, she completed the task of organizing 7,400 departmental files. That's right, 7,400 departmental files all got reorganized. We also held a kickoff meeting for the update of the city's comprehensive plan. This will take about the next 12 months and includes soliciting community ideas and feedback to help shape the future for the city. The Economic Development Director is also working on revisions to the home renewal program, which was reviewed by the CDA and Common Council. That'll be back soon. It's being reviewed based on the feedback that was received. Hoping for a launch in the first quarter of 2026. Library, the movers are getting library shelving and books placed. December 8th is the big re-grand opening. The parking lot was paved, and next week staff are going to be able to utilize it. Our youth services librarian, Deanna, met with the school district superintendent. They're exploring potential collaborations. Oh, they left. They're exploring potential collaborations. Also, the library director is enrolled in a 10-week leadership action series. We have several of our department heads that are going to be going through that together. And our assistant director is enrolled in the library management training class series, which is an 8-week intensive online course for library managers. Parks and Recreation, Christmas at Cravath is in full swing. The palette creations are back. Contact Michelle to reserve your palette project. Also, the Letters to Santa mailbox is coming out soon. Get ready for one of our sweetest traditions, the Letters to Santa program. November 14th through December 8th, kids can drop their letters off to Santa. Don't forget to include a return address so Santa can send a letter back for Christmas. Also, did you know you can take fitness and swim classes at the WAFC even if you are not a member? $5 for residents, $6 for non-residents. Also, thank you to the Hicks family for helping program Christmas at Cravath at the UW Homecoming Parade, which is pictured on the wall. HR department, they're taking applications for summer camp and after-school activity instructors as well as lifeguards. Recruitment for firefighter positions closed on November 3rd and phone interviews are underway. We're excited to welcome Ashwini, let's see, that's Rao.
Rao.
Rao. Wow, it's literally in there, R-O-W, that's okay. As our, I get it spelled phonetically too to avoid those little snafus. She's our next Economic Development Coordinator. She starts on November 10th. She holds a master's from Syracuse University and brings 20 years of experience in economic and community development, business consulting, and communications. She served as a senior community and economic development manager for Alliant Energy and has also held positions with the Wisconsin Department of Agriculture, Trade, and Consumer Protection and Wisconsin Entrepreneurs Network. And we're super excited to have her here. She's going to be personally responsible for making sure that our home renewal money is getting spent and that our CDA programs that have money in them get reinvigorated as well. So should be really good. Also, it's open enrollment for staff. In media services, our WCTV 990 recorded its first sporting event in our new partnership with the Whitewater Unified School District. It was the girls varsity swim meet on October 22nd. The full event is available to watch on all of our platforms, and we will continue expanding coverage of local sports to bring hopefully more viewers and more events to our viewers, and hopefully plans to live stream some of those in the future. And they've also captured some pictures of the new renovated library, and some videos of that will be out soon too. Also, we're still looking for poll workers. Please remember that. Any questions, contact the chief of staff. Still have questions, always contact the city manager. Thank you very much.
All right, thank you, John. Any other questions for John on any of the material? All right. So we did expedite some of the staff reports. So the one we still have to get through is number 16, presentation and brief overview of the 2026-2027 draft budget. So Rachel, if you want to come up and provide the brief overview.
Right, we're going to kind of whip through some of these that we've already touched on. This first slide has the links for each one of the meetings to the video. So if we're skipping over something, anyone listening or in the audience can refer back to those to get that presentation or discussion. So we've already completed all of the budget review with the Finance Committee, and we moved back the hearing to December 2nd. So that's been a change. All right, I'm not going to go over the guiding principles. That's something that we've already talked about. All right. So the 2026 mill rate is expected to increase for Walworth by about 95 cents. We originally estimated this to be about $7.75 when we were working on the referendum stuff, and it came in about 23 cents lower. Go to the next slide. Kind of put this into real action. So these are 4 properties in Walworth County, and it shows the year-over-year change in both dollars and percentages, just to kind of give some context with some of the changes. Jefferson County, the mill rate is estimated to increase by $1.60. And originally we estimated that to be about $7.04, and it came in about 68 cents higher. The simple answer to this difference is that Jefferson's equalized value TID out grew at a higher rate than Walworth, which is how we essentially calculate the proportion between the counties. So they have a larger apportionment. I'm going to get into more of that in more detail. At the
Rachel,
next
does that mean they had more TID growth than Walworth County?
No, that's the TID out.
Okay, so that's
That's the
without any of the TID
Correct.
factors. Okay, so
Correct.
they had more growth factoring
Correct.
the TIDs out of it, so just
Yes.
general housing, commercial
Yes.
development, okay, thank you.
We'll get into like a lot more detail at the next meeting about how that kind of, all of those things factor in.
Okay.
Okay, so this one is just the same thing as it was for Walworth. These are 4 properties that we have in Jefferson, along with the year-over-year changes in both dollars and percentage. Slide 8 we've already covered, but this is just the change to the city's property tax broken down between the operational and debt levies, and then the increased and assessment and assessed value as a whole, and then a blended rate for the city. This is what I want to cover tonight, because it seems we have new people on the council. But this is essentially how the city determines the mill rate for taxes. So I know it seems like simple math, however, several things factor into it, and we're gonna walk through those. The first thing we need to do is determine what the levy is or what the ask is. And in this case, $7,743,599 this year, of which $5,864,269 is the operational, the remaining is the debt levy. All right, now to determine the apportionment between the counties, we need the equalized TID out values, and we divide that by the total equalized value TID out for the city, and that gives us the percentage of the levy that will be allocated to each county. I just did Jefferson County just for the ease of math. We apply that to the total levy to determine the dollar amount. All right, now that we need to determine what the tax increment is. So we take the apportioned levy and divide it by the equalized value TID out to determine an interim value. We take that and multiply the interim value to the full equalized value to determine the total dollars to be levied. You'll see that the additional increment for Jefferson County is $97,840, which gets allocated to the TIDs for those specific things. All right, now that we calculate the mill rate by taking the total dollars levied and dividing it by the assessed value and multiplying it by 1,000 to convert it into dollars, which is the $7.72 for the mill rate for Jefferson. Before I move on, do you guys have questions about that process?
Are these numbers including the industrial park valuations?
Correct. This is all those figures are already in. So these are the most up to date. The only thing that I don't have that I'm waiting on is Jefferson County, but that's not gonna affect our mill rate. Any other questions on that? Okay, some of the notable statistics I thought would be important to touch on. So the equalized value represents the fair market value of all taxable property in the municipality. Tracking changes helps gauge economic growth or decline and supports long-term financial planning. So growing equalized value means your community's tax base is expanding, allowing the city to spread costs across more property, easing the tax burden growth for individual taxpayers. State-imposed levy limits restrict how much a municipality can increase its property tax from one year to the next. So primarily the way is through net new construction. I think we had, I can't remember, I think the blended rate was just over 1% for the for both counties. And then the TIDs, the increment growth in the TIDs. Those are the tools that allow the municipalities to invest in infrastructure development by capturing the incremental increase in property value within a defined area after its creation. The TID increment funds public improvements and incentives within the district until the project costs are repaid. When a TID closes, the value is added back to the general tax base, expanding the community's equalized value and broadening future tax capacity. So monitoring the TID's growth helps forecast when and how much new value will return to the tax rolls for general use. Essentially, TID growth shows the effectiveness of our economic development strategy and signals future increases in the city's financial capacity once the district is retired. And we can skip this one because we've already talked about that. Actually, I'll just tell you which one to go to next. Actually covered all of those. We're gonna get into a little bit more on the health insurance premiums at the next meeting as well. Do you guys have any questions about any of those items yet, or want to see additional information with the next one?
My question would not be for you, our assessor might be able to help. Jefferson County's equalized value rose by 13% in comparison to 5 in Walworth County. Can you just check with, anyone have an explanation?
That's part of that, when I was talking about earlier, the entire, I think it was 7.2% of their growth was outside of the TID.
Okay,
The remainder of the growth was within the TID,
for Jefferson County,
correct?
gotcha.
But the rate at which both grew kind of gave Jefferson County a little bit more of the total overall apportionment of taxes. I think it was
Yeah, because from net new
60
construction in
about
Jefferson
60
County was
some
far
odd thousand.
lower. Okay. Okay,
Yeah, we're gonna get into more detailed on that at the next meeting for that.
okay.
Any additional follow-up that anybody wants to make sure Rachel or staff bring in the future?
Got 2 more shots at this, the next meeting, and then the meeting after that will be the public hearing.
Rachel, maybe at the next meeting, just kind of going over, I know we made a change with our assessor contract in terms of these, the assessment, instead of doing a full community-wide, I thought just maybe touching on that and what that might look like for.
Okay.
Because I think that's where most people, I mean, yeah, the tax have gone up because of those voter-approved referendum, but assessments have also gone up quite a bit every year, which increases some of the burden for folks, even though.
It right sizes the burden, really.
But,
So
but I know there's some questions on, what's our assessment process, so maybe just touch on what going forward in terms of when
okay,
it's
so the change
assessed.
in
Yeah, what those
the
changes
practice.
are gonna look like, so.
okay, can do that. Anything else?
Rachel?
Okay.
All right, Brad, you're up with the stormwater quality management plan implementation plan. So if you just want to talk from there, that's fine.
Sure. I have one extra slide that I was gonna show you, but I don't know how to bring it up. I'm not IT literate, so. So there was questions about the Stern Park underground basin. A couple of reasons why we're looking at it now. Rising construction costs. Back when it was first identified, back in 2017, it was listed at 2.7 million. I'm sorry, from 1.2. It was listed at 1.2 million in 2017. When it was updated in 2023, it went up to 2.7 million, and now we're at 3.6 million. So the costs are just going to keep rising. Funding opportunities, we have a chance to qualify for up to 40% of principal forgiveness through the Clean Water Fund. We currently have secured a $150,000 construction grant through the DNR. The bipartisan infrastructure law increased the funding through the Clean Water Fund. That is set to expire in 2026. Because of the extra money, there are a lot more projects, especially wastewater projects that we are fighting for. Stormwater falls in the same category as wastewater for the Clean Water Fund. So even though there's more money, there's definitely been more projects that have been submitted. The partnership with the university, the basin would also treat stormwater from the university property. The university has expressed interest in this project, and they would get credit for their portion of the area that is contributing to the basin. Long-term need, I know this project, based on our implementation plan, more than likely needs to be done. It makes sense to do it now. The construction cost of materials, as stated before, keep rising, especially compared to labor that would just be needed for digging a detention pond. As you can see, a comparable detention pond that was listed in the implementation plan increased 38% compared to the 200% increase for the underground detention pond in Stern Park. And when compared to other potential projects, it's not the lowest, it's not the highest. It's pretty cost effective with projects that have been listed in the plan. The water quality trading projects, those are temporary, usually 10 to 15 years. And if those do not get renegotiated, we lose those credits. So it's better to get the infrastructure in ground earlier than later. And the slide that I was gonna show was the location of the detention basin. It's planned to be constructed underneath the entrance to the park, and then also a portion underneath the southern parking lot. We're looking at providing a temporary service to the upper parking lot during construction, and currently looking at a schedule if we do this in 2026, that it would more than likely be a fall construction or a late summer after the majority of the baseball tournaments are completed. So that is what I have for a report on that.
We'll have public comment here in a minute.
Okay.
Yep. Neil?
Just on the partnership with the university, have we talked about the final approval through the Board of Regents and the State Building Commission?
So they reviewed the preliminary draft easement, or the MOU, I should say, and they specifically put in their wording that it needs to be approved by the Board of Regents.
I guess, have we started that, or have they started that discussion? Not that it takes 2 or 3 years and we need the money sooner?
I'm assuming they have, yes.
Okay.
We also have a meeting scheduled with them, next week, later this week?
December.
December? That's close enough. We have a meeting with Brenda and the Chancellor the attorney and the Chancellor to specifically talk about all issues related to stormwater, university, city. So
Okay.
there's a list, we've got several things we go over, this will be on that.
Yep, thanks.
All right, any other questions from council? All right, and then the final piece, kind of on that stormwater vein, was a report on stormwater rate adjustment and UW-Whitewater MOU compliance review. So, Stephen, do you want to touch on your memo?
So, some issues were raised at prior meetings regarding whether adoption of the new rates would affect any payments that the city receives from the MSP program, which is created under Wisconsin State Statute Section 70.119. That statute authorizes the state to pay municipalities for various services that they're provided by municipalities for various facilities that the state owns within those municipalities. The services are kind of divided into 2 categories, one being utilities, the other being police and fire protection. And under that, the state is directed to make all payments for utilities at their stated rates, whereas for the fire and police protection, there's some formulas that they go through to determine whether or not that's going on. Part of this arose from an issue that the city had back in November of 22, when the state determined that an agreement that the city entered into with UW-Whitewater violated that MSP program and reduced the services because it shifted additional payments for compensation for police services that the state believed was already being compensated to the city through that MSP program. So that's the long way of getting around saying that this is a completely separate situation under that statute. It would not affect any payments that we're receiving from the state, other than increasing them based upon the rates that are changed for the stormwater permit. Or stormwater rates.
All right, any questions? All right, so next up, we have hearing of citizen comments. No formal council action will be taken during this meeting, although issues raised may become part of a future agenda. Participants are allowed a 3-minute speaking period, though, especially if we're going to be having any feedback on the staff reports, I'd ask if we could make that 5, since we don't have that much. Is there any objection to that? Okay. So we will be 5-minute speaking period, and then specific items for action may not be discussed at this time, but we will definitely have public input when those items come up for debate farther on the agenda. So if there's anything either under the staff reports that people have questions or comments on, or anything not on the agenda, just come up to the podium and state your name and address for the record.
Lawrence Harrison. I live at 716 Waters Edge Drive. My neighbor are the Granums at 714. We've been talking to you for ages about 2 big catch ponds. So I started looking up the rules from the state. The first question is, whose pond is it anyways? When I call you guys, you say it's Geronimo's pond. When I call Geronimo, they say it's your pond. I'm tired of the BS. Nobody has done anything on that pond for 15 years. I moved in 2010. The ditches that move to the ponds are not, as they say on the website, infested with weeds, trees, rocks, boulders. I mean, they're not affected with just boulders and weeds. There are trees growing in them. Culverts are half full. The ponds themselves, it says not to have, tree growth near the banks. They're down the banks, they're in the pond. Trees are growing and filling up the entire pond. The Geronimo people built apartments across from us. That used to be just greens, and the water sank into a big gully there. Since they built the apartments, Amber, Lakeview, Parkview, and all of Water's Edge drains right towards the two of us in our condos. My sump pump, after a rain, heavy rain, runs every 20 to 30 seconds. I can be in the next room and hear the water running into it. There's something wrong with that catch basin. It's been compromised in some way, and it's going to flood me out. I went and got Badger to put in $3,000 worth of drainage and the battery backup and a new sump pump. And I'm just figuring that someday I'm going to end up with 2-3 feet of water in the basement. There's no berm around it. It's flat to my patio, ground level cement patio. And I would like to have a surveyor put his benchmark on the pipe that drains to the lake and on my patio, and you'll probably find out that the drainage pipe is higher than my basement. There's a lot of problems there. And there are rules that I've looked up on several pages of the website, and I'm sending pictures and I'm sending comments to the state. I've got the address, and now I'm going to follow through. I spent the afternoon taking pictures. Boulders this big in the ditch, and trees higher than I am growing in it. Nobody does anything. So between you and Geronimo, figure it out. And the state probably will be talking to you. And I'm not here to crab about, the extra few pennies on my taxes. I have paid over $5,000 in taxes one year. I'm in the high 4s now. I'm not suffering. But when I read this article, Singer's comment, I thought this was good. To me, it's obvious. We need to do something with the rates. My comment was, you need to do something, anything, to earn the rates. That's my comment. You gotta do something. And dredging, it's a bit too late for dredging. You gotta get guys to remove trees. You came there about 2 months ago with a backhoe, pulled out 2 trees, and the guys figured, what the hell, it's gonna take us a year. And they left. In an hour and a half, they were gone. It was almost laughable. But that was your effort. And I'm gonna be flooded out. And they're building there now. And the floor and the decks, the patios they're laying out, you can benchmark the patio and the water in the pond. And the pond is probably higher. And you're gonna sell that to people. And they're gonna invest their life savings in that. That's a crime. You gotta do something.
All right, we'll definitely have Brad follow up.
I can give you an answer now.
All right.
The 2 ponds on the east side of Water's Edge are city-owned, and they are in the capital budget for next year to be cleaned out, dredged, regraded, the whole works.
All right, anybody else have anything they wish to say during public comment? All right, anybody online? All right, next up, we have second reading of ordinances 2025-026, an ordinance regarding additions and deletions to municipal code 11.16.150, street index of parking restrictions. This was second reading from ordinance we had last time, so is there any action?
I do have a comment. Just some clerical error on my part. There are 9 instances where the code references 11.16.075, which is for 4-hour parking. Those should be changed to 11.16.070, which references the 2-hour parking. They're on Center Street, First Street, and Fremont Street. So I can make those changes once this is approved.
All right, any action or questions for Brad or staff?
Move approval of Brad's recommendation.
Second.
All right, moved by Hicks, second by Smith-Pro to approve the second reading of the ordinance with the administrative modifications that Brad stated on the record. All right, any council discussion? Any public comment on this item? All right, Heather, if you'd please call the roll.
Hicks,
Aye.
Steiner,
Aye.
Mike Smith,
Aye.
Sion,
Aye.
Orin Smith,
Aye.
Myshak,
Aye.
Shannon.
Aye.
All right, that second reading passes. Next up, we'll move on to item number 24, discussion possible action regarding appointment of common council representatives for comprehensive plan update advisory committee. Mason?
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, hopefully this is a little more fun one tonight after all this discussion about taxes and stormwater rates and everything. But city staff did have our first meeting with representatives from RDG Planning and Design, the firm that was selected to conduct the update to the city's comprehensive plan. And as part of that effort, they've recommended that we put together an advisory committee, which will consist of representatives from different stakeholder groups within the city. Obviously, the Common Council is a very important stakeholder group here. So we are recommending that the council appoint 2 representatives, if you desire, to sit on that committee and participate in the meetings. As the information provided by RDG outlined, it would be approximately 7 meetings you'd be committing to over the course of the next year as part of that planning effort. So I don't know if there's been any discussion already or if anybody's chomping at the bit, but we would appreciate 2 appointments to that committee if you so wish.
Any volunteers? Yeah, 3. Yeah. We never set this by like resolution or anything, like, could you have 3? I mean, what like define like what that committee's membership is?
I was gonna say, I believe we've had, we were gonna ask the PARC to have a representative as well, which Councilmember Hicks also sits on. I think that would be okay.
Yeah. So I saw Orin Smith, Brian Shannon,
Yeah, I
and
think we
Neil
can send
Hicks.
those 3 and leave it to them to figure out any voting.
And we have our alternate policy, so
Yeah.
if anyone can't attend, and these are open meetings, so, right?
So we can come
The
anyways.
committee itself will make some recommendations that will get incorporated, so you're right. But these 3 people will be asked to be part of a body that then recommends changes or not changes to various sections of the plan.
I would
If you want to send 3, send 3.
One thing, I would say 3, we probably want to avoid having a quorum of
Right.
the council sitting on it, so I think 3 would be kind of the max, but I see no downside to that.
So then for your CDA, would your other appointee be a community member?
We would likely, we would be asking for a non-council member. I mean, those 2 sit on the CDA, so we kind of got
Now we're
that.
getting to a quorum of the CDA.
Yeah.
So, we'll let Stephen handle the legal aspects of it, but, so. Yeah.
Do we have any concern, because we just went through and looked at all of our committees and organizations and made sure there was no conflict or too much emphasis from one person over multiple committees. Was that considered in this request?
Who all volunteered? The only thing I know is that Orin has 1 committee assignment than everybody else.
We have 2 CDA members and a PRC member.
It's almost like we enjoy economic development and zoning issues.
Yeah.
I don't see an issue from a conflict perspective. I do see what you guys are saying, but from a purely conflict perspective, at the end of the day, the council's vote is gonna control what happens with the plan.
And I would also say that, yeah, I see what you're saying, Greg, but the 3 members are on those bodies that are have most proximity to, the impact and that, so.
We are aiming for a 12-person committee, so it would be probably not too easy for one person to have undue influence sitting on that, influencing the comprehensive
From the
plan.
13th, you know, even an odd number of people, right?
That's true, we
Yeah.
could shoot for that.
The only thing that would potentially change is, and maybe we have this on our organizational meeting for April, is because this goes into the next year and past there, is just confirming who those, if everybody's still on and still wants to do it, cool, otherwise there may be some, we'll have another
And
chance.
there's a spring election as well.
If that's what the
Yeah.
body wants to do, we will make
Yeah.
sure it comes back up.
Well, especially if somebody says, I'm not running or
Yep.
isn't on anymore, then we'd have to figure out.
You would fill a vacancy, but if you want it out just as a matter of procedure, we can do that.
Yep, no problem.
All right, so there was volunteers of Hicks, Shannon, and Smith. Is there a motion to make that appointment?
As I understand, the motion is also recommending that it come back to the council after the spring election.
Yeah, it would just be on our regular organizational meeting.
Okay.
So that was same motion, right?
I don't that mean.
Same motion, my check second. All right, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. All right, that motion passes. Next up, we have future agenda items. I'll start down with Warren. Do you have anything?
No.
Brian?
No.
Mike?
No.
Steve? Greg? Yeah.
TDS update with the public channel.
We will have one. It's funny because I just was sitting in a meeting and said, put that in writing because someone's gonna ask me. And that was like not 3 days ago. So we do have one. We're making progress. Next meeting.
All right, and I don't have anything, so is there a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second.
All right, moved by Shannon, second by Smith. To adjourn. All in favor of adjourning, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no.